Welcome to Teatro Absurdo with Huilo Marvavilla, brought to you by Jaguar Bridge Productions and The Great Mystery. Well, hello there, podcasters. Welcome to Teatro Absurdo. I'm Willow Marvavilla, and this is Series 3. Welcome aboard to that which is ludicrous, preposterous, crazy, and, if you're lucky, dazzling. Howdy, absurdites. Oh my goodness, how's everybody doing? Don't you love how the video is making my eyebrow move? So where do we start? I don't know how many of you are hitting this for the first time. I would absolutely recommend go back to earlier podcasts to follow this. This is series 3. We're discussing the mystery, the destruction, and the regeneration of the jaguar portals, which is artworks and an ecological art center in Costa Rica that were all destroyed over a series of events over the last 2 decades. We're taking a look at deep symbolism in artwork, how it shifts perception, potentially, and the mystery shrouded moving beyond circumstantial events that destroyed a huge portion of this artwork. We are working on a film called Cries of a Jaguar. It's a supernatural crime art house documentary. It could be docuseries, I don't know. We are in the process of fundraising to go into production next year. There is an art show happening in New York. Look for details at the end of this podcast, or there'll be a link as to where it is. And this is part 3. In several of the podcasts, we looked at paintings. We looked at the genesis of this art, from a sculpture in Mexico to a sculpture that was created at an art center in New Mexico. And then subsequent paintings that began the quest for art that could open the viewer to a larger notion or idea or participation about reality. But I wanted to step aside from the paintings for a moment. So the past 2 episodes and this one will culminate with this one about what was possibly going on in the ethers that destroyed the first series of jaguar portals at an artist retreat in New Mexico. So we heard from a friend, Red Wolf Dancing Bear. Please look him up online on Instagram, get a psychic reading, a tarot reading. He's fantastic. He, she, they, whatever they go by right now, and respecting that. But I kept alluding to in the past too, like this person I had met, Lisa Renee. Please go to her website, Energetic Synthesis. She's an amazing channeler. She's definitely in a portal of a certain perspective on how human consciousness and humanity may be being attacked by otherworldly energies and beings, and those beings may have possessed certain characters on this planet that are leaders or otherwise. Certainly feels that way, right? I mean, I've been saying to friends of mine, I'm like, what I'm seeing out there is not freaking human. It's like people have lost the state of what it means to be human. Or maybe we never had it and we gained it for a while and then we were backtracking. I mean, there's all kinds of mysteries surrounded the Anunnaki, that human DNA was altered. We're stuck in a reptilian mind. I mean, who knows? You can look at Egyptian art, you can look at Mayan art, you can look at Sumatran art, you can look at some of the most ancient art in the Dolomite Mountains, the Venus of Willendorf's, the different cave paintings and these things. And the mysticism surrounded by the continent of Lemuria, Mu, M-U, not Mu like a cow, Atlantis and etc. But it's very clear, and what I think I am amazed by and fascinated by, because the mundane sucks and I don't really need Hollywood to feed me every curiosity, nor religion, nor government. Have an expansive mind, and many artists that are celebrated in museums have been very curious. They've died young, they've been chased by governments and religion, all sorts of things. So I don't know what's going on, but it's very trippy that so many of my paintings have been destroyed. And an entire center that was huge. But anyway, I would like to, go in a little bit deeper into a conversation I had with this psychic that I did meet at Dominure. I expressed to you in the last podcast the fascination I had with that. And there are other art and spirituality communities around the planet that, go visit, go look at, but don't go look at like with Instagram sensation. Go perhaps look at with participation and curiosity and wonderment. I don't even know if I'm going to mention the other ones. If you find them, mazel tov. But one of the things about Dominure, which I was really fascinated by, was their whole doctrine, their cultural doctrine was centered a lot around synchronicity. I mean, they literally had synchronicity spots in their community where you would just manifest a ride somewhere or something like that. Very interesting. More synchronicity bus stops around the planet. But this is where I met Lisa, and she does a lot of work around ascension. And I'm not talking about biblical, and it's one perspective. Like I said, there are many perspectives and ideas about what may or may not be going on with human consciousness, aside from the horrific mundane news, which is so manipulative. It's fascinating, like a movie. I get it. It goes into your veins, into your consciousness, and you want more adrenaline and cortisone and all that shitty stuff it releases in your body. However, there are really cool humans on the planet, really cool humans who are doing really amazing things. But I called her later that day after I discovered, was told about, this artwork that had gotten destroyed, because I was kind of freaked out too. I mean, aside from the horror and the sadness of losing the paintings, I mean, part of me was like, what I was seeing in front of me in that pile of artwork in the middle of the road that Red Wolf alluded to, it seemed like ultra human. I mean, there were parts of this big wooden puppet theater that I had that pieces of wood were literally broken in half. It would take a strong, focused human that was not in their right mind to do that. So, yeah, there could be the medical diagnosis of pharmaceuticals, depression, and sorts of things. But there's also, I just think, something very strange, and we'll see this come up over and over and over in these destruction periods of this artwork where humans are not human who did this. But one of the things she said in the phone call when I told her about what had happened is she was like, well, sans new aginess, she was telling me how there are energy fields on here that want to weaken or distract or even destroy anything that wants to liberate humanity, because there's a lot of philosophies and stories and ideas about enslavement of the humans. We look at that. I mean, historically, humans are very good at enslaving others, on this level of control and, submission and all these things that are consistently going on greed, power, control things, all these things. But, and I became fascinated by that because I was like, wow, something is kind of after this idea, even if it's just me manifesting it through strange people in my life. I don't know. It's always a part of it. Um, so she referred to them as aggressive spirits or curious spirits. I mean, they have names, like I said, entities, inorganic beings, demons. Certainly, I would say if you're fascinated by this, you can check out some of Carlos Castaneda's books. The one that really kind of I aligned to in this story development was, I think it was called The Dream Awakening. It was really spooky. I had to put it down because the book is sorcery. I wouldn't call it necessarily bad or anything. It was just heavy because it's talking about moving into multiple layers of dreams, which are realities to some degree. But in that, there's a lot of discussion about inorganic beings. But here's the thing, because I don't think I need to melt this. We'll keep this a little bit shorter. What I do see that's wrapped around some of this is vulnerability, the intention I had with the artwork. I was just looking at some websites to understand why and how symbolism affects humans so much. And so much so that, remember, my background is in advertising and marketing in New York. And I learned a tremendous amount around psychology and patterns and colors and all these things. And if you think you are not manipulated daily by the symbols, the shapes, the colors, the vibration, the music, everything that your experience that was developed with some level of creativity, and often some of it was developed maliciously to take control and to hypnotize you. So symbolism is really strong. And I think if you look at the symbolism in these paintings or listen in, there's another book that was really interesting. I think it was called The Kabbalion. It was written in 1908 by some mystics. It's a really interesting book about principles for people who don't like laws, principles of hermetics, or those wizards that were trying to turn lead into gold and those sorts of things, early alchemy. But again, these layers of consciousness, cause and effect, gender, synchronicity. It's a really interesting book, really short read. Look it up, find it. Absurdites, you have homework. But I want to go one level here right now before I close, and it's about the possession of the people that I witnessed that were around the destruction of this art, where they become non-human. Certainly that person in the desert, non-human for a moment, then experiencing remorse. But there's some videography, security footage rather, from Costa Rica of the neighbors who had helped build this place, had invited me to build on their land. I wasn't the white boy trying to conquer or create something that wasn't wanted. They wanted to bring more arts to their community. But what I want to get to is, and I've scrutinized this footage to the nth degree, and it's horrifying to see and interesting. But one of the people is literally dressed as a monster. I mean, literally, I will flash this up at the end of this, a few images. They're walking around in kind of a zombie monster, dreadlock, sunglasses, hat, with a backpack thing on their back, probably filled with gasoline or something. And, really monstrously walking around. No emotional field with this person. Then there's another person in the footage, someone who I know that the Fiscalia, which is the legal energy in Costa Rica, just completely freaking annoyed. Pick up on my Substack. It will give you the judicial behind some of the cases I have going on around the destruction of the center in Costa Rica. However, this image of this other person, I know who it is, but you can see possession. It is so like one of those creepy paranormal films that I do not watch because that shit is real and I have nightmares if I watch it. But this guy in this security footage, aside from the one dressed like a monster, he has a long pole in his hand, which is like a giant Q-tip. And in the footage, you see him setting the torch on fire and literally walking up to set the building ablaze into a ferocious blaze. There is no hesitation, no rushing. It's like, a zombie, or an AI figure. I don't know. If people are fucking fascinated by that, then there you go. But it is somebody who has had a walk-in, which I'm going to get to that later on in the next series of the shadow mystery part of this. But it is, so I would say right now, the absurdity is be sensible. Don't just discount everything because it's not literal. Step out of the mundane. Don't just let Hollywood do it and all the streaming or the books. I mean, this stuff is actually going on around us right now. And there's a crazy, crazy energy field coming up that's kind of like a pivotal field in human governance in this autumn. But I digress. The next time we'll go into what happened in Chile, where I was writing the next two books in the series, The Tales of a Jaguar Magician, not tail like a little puppy, but T-A-L-E. Search for it on Amazon, Tales of a Jaguar Magician, where the illustrations, I think something wanted to try to destroy them, but they only got photographs of the images, but the building burnt down in Chile. So crazy shit. So anyway, but we're going to take a break. We're going to go back to some of the paintings in the next few episodes and start to look at the interesting symbolism and the beauty of the paintings that were destroyed. And move on, but beware of the embattlement within your own personal consciousness, with the projections, the mirrors, human mirrors around you. Anyway, until next time, tra-la-la-la, off you go, bye-bye. And that was it, my dear friends. Teatro Absurdo Series 3, brought to you by Jaguar Bridge Productions, angels, guardians, guides, and perhaps a few demons, if you're lucky, from the underworld. So tune in to us on all the major social circuits around the universe. Bye-bye.